This is the Senior Master Coordinator, Bob Ferguson, and I'm with my wonderful friend, Pharmacist Rusty Ost. I say every time, an old weeds and seeds master pharmacist, the guy who studied all the plant kingdom in this process of his education. So tonight, what we're going to talk about is herbs and supplements, but mainly herbs and the immune system. What herbs are out there, particularly what we have with Shaklee, but in general, what herbs have an impact on our immune system? Because as we know, in these days, we want to do all of the social distancing. Rusty and I were commiserating what social distancing feels like. We're going to do that. We want to protect ourselves. We want to, first of all, avoid getting the virus if we possibly can. If we do get the virus, then what we want is a very, very, very strong immune system to protect us, because that's what our immune system is for. It's protecting us and protecting us from novel pathogens that the immune system's never seen. So, Rusty, wonderful to have you with me here tonight.
Thank you. And as I'll remind everyone, if you weren't born on September 9th, you're not part of the group.
That's right. It's my birthday brother. No wonder we get along so well.
We do get along well. And I'm always humbled by the fact that you're a few years younger than me. So
well, yeah,
I have more experience.
I'll never catch up with you, Rusty.
No, you won't. You should stop trying.
I will never catch up.
No. And I would have to tell people that your mother was like a second mother to me. She was a very, very wonderful lady, and she came down to Florida to visit us one time, stayed in our home, and we took her shelling on Sanibel Island to knock off one of the items on her bucket list.
Absolutely. You know what? I think I still have a bucket of those shells out in the carport.
I would expect that.
Pretty darn sure I got him. I still got him, Rusty.
Yeah, I'm sure. So we are going to talk about herbs tonight, and as this slide says, Shaklee's position in the herbal industry. And I think that it's really important. And I've often said that a program like this should be titled Herbal ABCs, and ABC standing for Always Be Cautious, because I hope you will learn tonight that there's way more junk out there than there is good stuff. So with that, we'll just get started. And I want to give you a little background on herbs. And you know, everyone has used herbs forever because they're in the food that we eat, the garlic and the oregano and the cinnamon and all of that stuff. And the big difference is that what we put in our food is usually not as much. And so just like garlic, you know, a little bit for taste, but a lot has a real benefit in our body. So we shouldn't be afraid of herbs, but we should use them judiciously. So pharmacognosy is the course that separates me from a lot of pharmacists today. It was a course that for 1 year in pharmacy school, we studied herbs, the extraction, their activity, what they looked like, where they were grown, all of that stuff for 20 hours a week for a year. Wow. And between the time that I graduated and the time that June started just 3 years later to pharmacy school, that class had been dropped. And so it no longer existed. And today, some pharmacy schools offer, 2 or 3 hours of education in herbs, but not the 20 hours a week that I got. And Bob remembers that we did call it weeds and seeds, right? Because for an entire year, we carried around little Ziploc bags full of weeds and seeds. And our final exam was in a big laboratory, and there were 6 petri dishes on each desk. And in that petri dish was a part of a plant. It might be a piece of bark, it might be a leaf, it might be a root, it might be a rhizome, it might be a stamen, but we had to identify from that piece of bark, for example, we had to identify the plant, we had to know its botanical name, we had to know where it was grown. We had to know the alkaloids that were extracted from it. We had to know their doses and their uses. And there were probably at least 60 or 70 of them.
Wow.
And so that's a lost art.
Yes, really.
Nobody does that today. So the next thing on the slide, there's the Eastern versus the Western philosophy of medicine. And the Eastern philosophy of medicine that exists in the Eastern countries, like the Pacific Rim countries, if an herb has been used for hundreds or even thousands of years, it has a lot of benefits and there's seemingly no downside. The Eastern philosophy of medicine says use it. The Chinese herbs and the Asian herbs and things like that. Well, the Western philosophy says, well, if there has been a plant product that's been used for hundreds or even thousands of years and it seemingly has no downside and a lot of upside, the Western philosophy of medicine says, prove it. And so when that came about, a lot of those, it was not profitable for big pharma to prove it. So those things fell by the wayside. And so then herbs kind of fell from flavor. And then, you know, herbal products in this country go back over 200 years. And during the early 1900s, when the dark side of technology reared its head and we started to deal with things like air pollution and water pollution and some of those things, people turned back to nature. And it wasn't a slow process, but people turned back to things that were natural and organic. And unfortunately, those two words became synonymous with better. If it was natural and if it was organic, it was better. Well, I'm here to tell you that part of that's horse manure, and it ain't necessarily better. So there's a lot of junk out there today that claims to be natural and it claims to be organic. And there's the DSHEA that you see printed a lot, Dietary Supplement Health Education Act, was passed, and it was supposed to deal with this. But until a company is big like Shaklee, they fly underneath the radar. So we'll move on here. This is a humorous look at I didn't realize that was still animated. Anyway, you know, 4,000 years ago, in 2000 BC, the doctor said, here, eat this root. And then in 1000 AD, the root's heathen prayer came into play. And then in the middle 1800s, that became superstition and drink the potion. And then middle 1900s, the potion is snake oil, swallow the pill. And then in the mid 80s, about the time that we joined Shaklee, the pill is ineffective. Here, take this antibiotic. And June, my wife June, was on an antibiotic 50 weeks a year because she had no immune system. Well, then by 2000 AD, the antibiotics don't work anymore. So the doctor says, here, eat this root. So we've kind of come full circle. But here's some interesting information from a recent pharmacy publication. It says the focus of pharmaceutical development is now on lifestyle drugs, drugs that have nothing to do with disease. Instead, they treat conditions resulting from personal responsibility or behavior choices. They enhance life or performance. They treat problems falling outside the medical or social definitions of health, and they target symptoms most members of society don't consider a real disease or disorder. Things like alcohol abuse, agents to promote hair growth, anabolic steroids, antidepressants that are used as designer drugs, Botox, drugs that treat erectile dysfunction, things that enhance fertility, birth control, smoking cessation, the list just goes on and on. They don't really treat diseases, but they treat those conditions resulting from personal responsibility or behavior choices. And so it seems to me that if we want to be healthy, we better start now. So let's talk about the Food and Drug Administration. And I thought, golly, it's the FDA, and doesn't F stands for food? Well, it does, but they really are very, very ineffective. So a little history here. The FDA was actually created in 1930 because of people wanting a, drugs were causing horrible birth defects and, babies born without arms or without legs or no eyes or no ears, horrible, horrible stuff. So the Food and Drug Administration has a position, and it was created. Then in 1938, the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act that we still have today, gosh, that's what, 82 years old? In 1994, the Dietary Supplement Health Education Act was passed, and the FDA has done really nothing since 2004 when it banned ephedrine from herbal supplements. And that was really a horrible thing for most of our competitors because they used ephedrine to cause people to feel good. And without it, their products weren't nearly as effective. And so, and nothing has really happened since then. So we'll talk about Shaklee. There are 5 criteria upon which Shaklee based their products. And some people would call this the Shaklee difference, Bob. I call this the Shaklee uniqueness.
Mm-hmm, yes.
Because it is unique. This is not commonplace. Safety. Do you know another company in America that places safety as their #1 priority? Yeah. Safety is somewhere in there, but it's never #1 except with Shaklee. And that's been proven so many times, and even now, when it's kind of hard to get raw materials, but look at the current back order list. And the reason is because Shaklee has 0 tolerance. It has to be safe. Long herbal traditions. Shaklee's not always the first company to come out with an herbal product or even a supplement. But we do know that when it comes out, it's going to be clinically proven, clinically tested, and it's going to be the best. And that's really important. Understanding the chemistry related to the herb, that's kind of knowing what the metabolic pathways are, knowing that it's truly science-based. Shaklee is a merger of science and magic, but the science is actually there. It's a huge part of what Shaklee is today, and it's the part that attracted June and I to Shaklee almost 40 years ago. Consistent quality and concentration. In college, in this 20-hour a week in pharmacognosy, we did thin layer chromatography and high performance liquid chromatography. And we extracted these alkaloids from plants. And so I know what goes into that. And then finally, herbal combinations must match exacting science. And the products are supposed to do, the products do what they're supposed to do. The label is accurate, and that's really important. Other factors, and there are a lot of them, and I'm going to spend a lot of time here, but people say, well, there's not as much such and such herb in Shaklee product as what I can find at a store like GNC. Well, it's because Shaklee takes advantage of Hahnemann's principle, and Dr. Hahnemann was the father of homeopathy, and he was also it's the science of similars. And so it's that when you combine 2 particular herbs, and Nutriferon is a perfect example of that, when you combine 2 different herbs, you get 1 + 1 = 3, or 1 + 1 = 5, not 2. And so it allows Shaklee to use lower, boy, I hate to use the word dose because that's kind of medical, but allows Shaklee to use a lower dose of the individual herb to get an even better effect. And so the second thing there, the mechanism of action is true to the underlying cause. That's unique to herbals. Herbals treat the cause and the symptom. They don't just treat the symptom. If you're sitting at a table and you stick your finger in a candle, it starts to burn. Well, you can put an ice cube on your finger and it might relieve the pain a little bit. Much smarter to take your finger out of the fire and put the ice cube on, and that's what the herb does. Takes your finger out of the fire. adaptogens, herbs have the advantage of being adaptogens that no medicine does. If you have low blood pressure, you could take something like ginseng and raise your blood pressure. If you have high blood pressure, you can take the same herb to lower your blood pressure, things like that. If you have a hyperactive child, ginseng slows it down. On the other hand, it provides energy to those people that need it. It's unique to what herbals do. And then botanicals meet or exceed Commission E standards. There are two standard setting agencies, the British Formulary and the German Commission E. You notice not either one of those say the United States. When I was in pharmacy school, we had the United States Pharmacopoeia, which everybody or most people know about the USP, but nobody knows about the NF, the National Formulary, because that was the standard setting agency for plant products. And in that magic 3 years between the end of my education, the beginning of June's education, the National Formulary was no longer needed. So now, British Formulary or German Commission E is what Shaklee uses as a standard setting agency. Price exemplifies the value. People, I've heard the comment, everyone has heard the comment that Shaklee products are maybe more costly. And the part of the reason for that is the cost of clinical studies. And so the data collection phase of clinical studies is exorbitantly expensive. And if you recall, Shaklee doesn't use white mice or white rats or bunny rabbits. Who do they use? They use people. And this is from MDS Pharma Services. Actually did some, I don't know if they still do anymore because we don't live in Lincoln, but they actually did some clinical studies for Shaklee. And they would run these ads in the paper. You could earn up to $5,000 for a weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You go in and they inject you with some untested, raw ingredient, and then they wake you up every hour and they draw blood to find out what happens to it in your body. And that's not cheap. Nobody would do that for a little bit of money. So the cost of clinical studies are really expensive. So when you take all of that into consideration, let's talk about the immune system and how herbs affect it. And there are two ways that herbs affect the immune system. One is they stimulate the immune system. And I'll go back to June on an antibiotic for 50 weeks a year. And so she knew that she had to rebuild her immune system. And so she could use a product like Defend and Resist because it had Echinacea. And Echinacea is an immune system stimulator. But just as a lot of your nerve receptors in your body become, I can't think of the word I want to use, they no longer react to the stimulus. Like if you start to do dishes, and in our house, we still do dishes if the dishwasher doesn't have to run. But if you run your sink full of hot water and you stick your right hand in, it's too hot. So you pull your right hand back out. And pretty soon you keep doing that. And pretty soon you can leave your right hand in the water. But if you stick your left hand in, the water's too hot. And it's because those pain receptors stop responding. Well, the immune system receptors behave the same way. So if you continue to hit them with a product like Echinacea, daily, day in, day out, pretty soon they just stop responding. So you get a plateau and the immune system no longer responds. But if you stop and let the immune system relax and do it again, then it will increase. So you get an area where you get an immune increase in immune response, and then a plateau, and then an increase and a plateau, and an increase and a plateau. And over an extended period of time, a person can make an unbelievable effect on their immune system. And it took June probably, I don't even remember, it was a long time ago, 6, 7, 8 months to get that done. and she's never been on an antibiotic since. And so it can make a difference. The other issue with immune systems is the immune system modulator. And modulators are products that modulate the balance and the activity of the immune system. And they act to keep the immune system topped off, but they never overstimulate it. The immune system never stops reacting to it because it's not stimulating, it's modulating. And I've told this word story before, but if I started driving from here to Seattle with a car, I'd have to stop every 200, 300, 400 miles for gasoline. But if I pulled a gasoline tank truck behind my car, and every time I used a gallon of gas, the tank truck automatically put that gallon back in my gas tank. Now it can't overfill my gas tank because my gas tank gets full, it won't accept any more gasoline. So when I get to Seattle, the gas tank in my car is still full. And but the interesting thing is that because it's a human body and not an actual tank truck, the tank truck is still full of gasoline. And so that's when you think about it, that's pretty dang cool. That you can always have your immune system topped off. So you mentioned COVID-19. It's a novel virus, meaning that, guess what? Nobody's ever seen it before. Your immune system's never seen it before. So your immune system has no natural immunity to a novel virus like this. Flu viruses are oftentimes novel. And so, but the thing is that if your immune system is healthy, hardy, and your tank is topped off, you're not going to have the issue with a novel virus like you do if you have and we read about people with compromised immune systems. And there are millions of people who have survived the COVID-19 virus. And it's because they had good immune systems. Not everybody who gets it dies. A lot of people do, but not everybody. And so the moral of the story is either pull a tank truck behind your car or make sure that your immune system is topped off, because guess what? This is COVID-19. It's not 17 or 18, and 20 is probably coming at some point. So we need to be prepared. All right. So let's look at some Shaklee products. One of them is Vitalized Immunity. And it's kind of a misunderstood product, but it's really an interesting product because it contains some of the same ingredients that's in Nutriferon. And it also contains Echinacea, a clinically proven immune stimulant. It contains those two amino acids, glutamine and lysine, that are known immune system protectors. High levels of vitamin C, and vitamin C is a really powerful antiviral. As much as, 16 oranges. Come on, in that little tablet, 16 oranges. Well, I can tell you that we used to analyze the bioflavonoids in grapefruit, and you take a grapefruit the size of a softball, and what you end up with is a quarter of a teaspoonful of bioflavonoids. But it's naturally sweetened with monk juice, and like all Shaklee products, it's nothing artificial in it, no preservatives, and gluten-free and all of those things. And Vitalized Immunity is a great product, especially for people who have a compromised immune system, to give them a little boost with their morning tea, maybe. Next thing we're going to talk about is Immunity Formula I. And Immunity Formula I, I'm sorry, this is not. This is Defend and Resist. I can't read my own slides, Bob.
Okay.
But Echinacea, this is one of those products that should not be taken every day. If it's going to be used, it should be taken for probably a maximum of 14 days. After about 14 days, 10 to 14 days, depending on the person, Nobody knows exactly, because even though we have the same birthday, we're different people. And but the immune system's going to stop responding to the echinacea. But stimulates, increases the white cell count, useful in both bacteria and viral infections. That's important. Black elderberry reduces fever, and black elderberry is an antiviral. Larch tree enhances immune support, helps to prevent infections. The interesting thing about defend and resist is it can be chewed. You can put one on your tongue, you can dissolve it, you can swallow it, or you can make a tea out of it. It's kind of fun with kids because the elderberry causes the tongue to turn purple, and kids run around the house showing everybody their purple tongue. But it's a very effective product, very effective, very elegant product. Here's the immunity formula I, and this is a very interesting product. It's not new. It's been around a while. Shaklee actually, I think, took it off the market for a while and then brought it back due to popular demand. But it's been known in the nutritional community for a long time that this combination of 9 nutrients would be very powerful for boosting the immune system. The problem is that these 9 nutrients eat each other. And so anytime that they were combined, the product destroyed itself. And so Shaklee scientists invented this product called Shaklee Guard that microencapsulates and protects each of these 9 ingredients from the other 8 ingredients. And it's really good. A lot of really good testimonies from people, particularly people who have allergies to hay fever or ragweed, or some of those things that you people in Iowa have that we haven't discovered yet in Florida. We have our own set of problem children. Now we talk about Nutriferon, and as I said one other time, we could probably do an entire talk just on Nutriferon.
We will.
Okay. Anyway, scientists and medical communities have identified interferon as being critical to healthy immune function. And Nutriferon is an exclusive, patented formula that was developed by the discoverer of interferon, Dr. Kojima, working for, Shaklee Japan's partner, Yamanouchi Pharmaceutical, but 4 plant extracts designed to naturally increase our own levels of Nutriferon to provide support at the cellular level. And natural interferons are produced by lymphocytes as part of an immunological response to a viral antigen. And so this, our bodies naturally produce alpha interferon, beta interferon, and gamma interferon, those 3 kinds. Alpha interferon, and by the way, pharmaceutical companies have been able to synthesize these 3 interferons: alpha interferon, beta interferon, gamma interferon. And so alpha interferon is produced by the white blood cells, suppresses cell proliferation, and it regulates the immune response, and is used to form, in a form obtained from DNA, to treat various diseases like hepatitis B, hepatitis C, leukemia, melanoma, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's manufactured in a lot of places. I'm going to name a few: Italy, Brazil, Hungary, Peru, Russia, Mexico, Paraguay, Lithuania, Poland. I didn't say the United States because there's none made here. Average retail for alpha interferon, average retail, $7,800 per month. Beta interferon is used primarily to treat symptoms of multiple sclerosis, MS. Average retail price, about $8,000 a month. Gamma interferon is an interferon that's produced by our T cells, regulates the immune response, and is used especially to control infections due to the inability of white blood cells to destroy certain bacteria and fungi. This will blow you away, Bob. The cost for Actimmune, it's not available generically. The cost for Actimmune subcutaneous solution is around $60,118 for a supply of 6 milliliters, 1 teaspoon.
Wow.
And those prices are only for cash paying customers because insurance company doesn't cover it. Now, you want to know the good news about Nutriferon? Nutriferon causes the production of all 3 kinds in our body. All 3 kinds. I don't know how much, I don't know off the top of my head how much a bottle of Nutriferon costs, but it can't be more
40 bucks.
16 and it can't be more than $75,000 a month.
No,
It
it
can't be.
75,000 minus about 40. You know, Rusty, one thing, yeah, 40, yeah, Rebecca. One thing that I had heard about, not only is synthetic interferon incredibly expensive, it's injected into the body, and so the body doesn't know how to modulate it. So for many situations, it's kind of like going after a mosquito with a baseball bat. And it's highly toxic, and it's very hard for the body to handle that. This product allows the body to both ramp up those 3 types of interferons, but also ramp it down. And that always really impressed me. I mean, obviously the body does that naturally, right?
The gas tank that you're pulling behind your car cannot overfill your gas tank in your car. There is no room. And this is why this product is so exceptional, because it is an immune system modulator. And you're right, it modulates the immune. If it's overproduced, it ramps it down. If it's underproduced, it ramps it up. It is so freaking cool that it's just at the very, very top all the time.
Well, if you want to stretch that analogy to the breaking point, maybe synthetic interferon is like having the gas, you know, it doesn't have a shutoff valve, so it doses your whole car with gasoline and all that.
Yeah, and then a spark sets it off. I don't know. Anyway, Dr. Kojima.
Edit this, people.
Yes.
Go ahead, Rusty.
Anyway,
we're getting way off topic.
It's also important to note that Nutriferon can be taken with Defend and Resist at the same time. They are safe together because of the fact that the Nutriferon is a modulator. Okay?
Great.
I'm done.
Wow. Okay, well, that is a whirlwind tour.
Well, we talked a lot
I'm going to bring up the chat because there's been a lot of interesting things happening on the chat. Okay, so Judy, she said, one of my members was on interferon for MS, and she said it was like having the flu 24/7. Got off of it and really did well on Nutriferon. Now, again, this is not a medical talk, but there you have it. I mean, when you can allow your body to ramp up and ramp down and do things naturally, gosh, that's great. So thank you, Judy, for that. So Deborah, okay, besides Defend and Resist, are there any other of these products supposed to be used every day or just as needed? I believe that Nutriferon is good as to take daily. So, okay, so let's look at, you covered Defend and Resist, Formula I, and Nutriferon. So which of those can be taken routinely and which need to be?
Only the Defend and Resist, because it's such a strong immune system booster. And I should point out, there's no harm in taking it every day. It's just that after 10 days to 2 weeks, it's probably not going to do what it did in the beginning.
Yeah. It won't hurt you, but it's not going to help.
The rest of them, you know, Immunity Formula I, Nutriferon, Vitalized Immunity, they can all be used on a regular basis.
No, that's terrific. Well, okay, Rusty, I think our many adoring fans, I think, are going to request a program just on Nutriferon. We will do that next month. I think we have some time either late this month or in June. I think sooner rather than later. So Rusty will get together, and maybe the third or fourth Tuesday, we'll have you back on, and we'll do a deep, deep dive into Nutriferon. It's just a mind blower, folks.
It is. It's a, you know, and we're very fortunate that Roger Barnett, when he purchased Shaklee, recognized the value of this product and purchased from Yamanouchi the worldwide rights.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about anybody going into the local pharmacy or the local grocery store or the local health food store and buying Nutriferon.
Yeah, that's terrific. All right, well, Rusty, I think I'm going to here. Let's turn off our Facebook here. Let me get down here, and okay, Facebook friends, thank you very much for coming on and enjoying this with us. Okay, so very good, folks. Okay, so next Tuesday we're going to have a little bit of a okay, let's pop the chat up here so we can see everyone. We're going to have a little change of pace. Summer Spinks Morosco is going to be on, and we're going to talk about the generational value of a Shaklee business. She's running Bob and Pat Ewing's business, their parents. I think their organization does about 50 million a year of Shaklee's volume. So, and I'm a second generation guy. So we're going to swing over to the business side and talk about what it means to have a business like this, which is in essence recession-proof and in virtually recession-proof, and certainly in a circumstance like this, you know, absolutely vital products that people will continue to buy, and that's certainly expressed in our businesses. So thank you all very, very much. Rusty, as always, it's just a phenomenal pleasure to sit at the feet of the master and learn from you.
You're too kind.
It's great. Okay, folks, see you later.